The message came at 0600 hours Galactic Standard Time. It arrived simultaneously on every communication device in known space. Every ship, every station, every colony world received it at the exact same moment. Captain Jake Morrison was drinking his morning coffee on the bridge of the Horizon Dawn when the transmission hit. The cup slipped from his hand as a wave of cold fear washed over him. Around the bridge, his crew members went rigid. Communications Officer Lisa Grant grabbed the edge of her console, her knuckles white. Navigator Chris Bennett stopped breathing for a moment. The message itself was simple. A voice that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere spoke in a tone that made bones ache. The Elder Collective has awakened. All sentient species will present themselves for evaluation within 10 solar cycles. Compliance is not optional. Resistance will result in termination. That was it. 23 words that made the entire galaxy freeze in terror. Jake forced himself to take a breath. His heart was pounding and every instinct screamed at him to run, to hide, to submit. But something in him pushed back against that fear. He looked around the bridge and saw his crew slowly recovering, shaking off the initial shock. What the hell was that? Greg Holland, the tactical officer, asked. His voice was shaky but angry. That felt like someone reached into my head and flipped a switch. Unknown, Lisa said, already working her console. But we're getting reports from all over human space. Everyone received it. And, sir, we're getting emergency transmissions from alien vessels nearby. They're all broadcasting the same thing. Put it through, Jake said. The speakers crackled and a panicked voice filled the bridge. It was the Kriltar freighter they had passed an hour ago. This is Captain Veshkor of the merchant vessel Swift Trader. We are returning to home space immediately. The collective has awakened. May the stars have mercy on us all. More messages flooded in. A Voss science ship was abandoning its research station. A Draka military patrol was retreating from their border. Every alien ship in the sector was running. Lisa, get me Mars Station, Jake ordered. I need to speak with Admiral Carter. While Lisa worked on establishing the connection, Jake watched the star map. Red indicators showed alien vessels fleeing in all directions. It was chaos. Ships were abandoning cargo, colonies were being evacuated, and military forces were pulling back to their home systems. The connection to Mars Station came through. Admiral Ben Carter's face appeared on the main screen. The Admiral was a veteran of the colony wars, a man who had seen combat that would break most people. But even he looked disturbed. Morrison, what's your status? Carter asked. We're operational, sir. Crew is shaken but functional. Sir, what's happening out here? Every non-human ship is running like the universe is ending. Carter's jaw tightened. We're trying to figure that out ourselves. What we know is this. That message triggered a fear response in every sentient species we've made contact with. The aliens are terrified, Jake, not just scared. Terrified in a way that doesn't make sense. What about us, sir? I felt it too. We all did. You felt it, but you didn't run, did you? Jake thought about that. The fear had been real, powerful even. But it hadn't controlled him. No, sir. We didn't. Exactly. Every alien ambassador we've spoken to is begging us to comply immediately. They're saying the Elder Collective is ancient, unstoppable, that entire civilizations have been wiped out for even questioning them. But Jake, none of them can tell us why. They just know they have to obey. Lisa interrupted. Sir, Captain, we're receiving thousands of transmissions from human colonies. They're all asking the same questions. Who are these people? What do they want? What happens if we refuse? Carter actually smiled at that, though it was grim. That's humanity for you. Everyone else is running and we're asking questions. The smile faded. I'm calling an emergency meeting of all fleet commanders and colonial governors. We need to decide how to respond. Morrison, I want you to interview any aliens willing to talk. Find out what they know about this collective. Yes, sir. The screen went dark. Jake turned to his crew. All right, people. Let's see if we can get some answers. Lisa, send messages to any alien vessels still in range. Tell them we want to talk about the Elder Collective. Greg, I want full sensor sweeps. If these collective people are coming, I want to know when they get here. Chris, plot us a course that keeps us in communication range of Mars, but gives us room to maneuver if needed. The crew moved quickly. Jake appreciated that. They were scared. He could see it in their movements, hear it in their voices. But they were working through it, focusing on their jobs. An hour later, Lisa reported success. Sir, we have a response. The Zentari merchant ship Quiet Prophet is willing to talk. Their captain says he'll answer questions, but we have to make it quick. He wants to reach Zentari space before the deadline. Put him through. The alien who appeared on screen was Zentari, a species that looked like a cross between an octopus and a spider. Captain Veshikara's tentacles were curled tight against his body, a sign of extreme stress in his species. "Human captain," Veshikara said, his translator making his voice sound hollow. "Why do you contact me? You should be preparing for evaluation like everyone else." "We want to understand," Jake said simply. "What is the Elder Collective?"
"Why is everyone so afraid?"
Veshikara's eye stalks drooped. "You truly don't know? The humans are new to the galaxy, I forget. The Elder Collective is ancient. They existed before most of our species evolved sentience. They maintain order in the galaxy." "What kind of order?" "Complete order. Total order. When they awaken every 1,000 years, they evaluate species. They decide who is worthy to continue existing and who must be removed. They have destroyed entire civilizations for disobedience." Greg leaned forward. "How? What weapons do they use? What's their military strength?" Veshkara's tentacles trembled. "No one knows. No one has fought them and survived to tell of it. They simply arrive, they evaluate, and they decide. To resist is to die. Has anyone ever tried?" Jake asked. "In all of galactic history, has anyone ever said no to them?" The question seemed to confuse Veshkara. "Why would anyone say no?" "That would be suicide. The fear you felt when the message came, that is just a taste of their power. They can reach into your mind and make you understand how insignificant you are, how futile resistance would be." Lisa spoke up. "Captain Veshkara, can I ask you something? When you received that message, what did you feel?" "Terror. Pure, absolute terror. The knowledge that something vast and powerful was aware of me, and that my life meant nothing to it. Every being in the galaxy felt the same thing. We felt fear," Lisa said carefully, "but not submission. We felt like we wanted to fight or run, not just give up." Veshikara's eye stalks focused on her. "You felt differently? How is that possible?" "We don't know," Jake admitted. "That's what we're trying to figure out." The Zentari captain was quiet for a moment. "Human captain, I have heard stories about your species. How you fight among yourselves constantly. How you never seem to know when to surrender. I thought these were exaggerations. Propaganda from your military. But perhaps they were true. Perhaps your species is broken in a way that makes you immune to proper fear. Or maybe we're just stubborn," Jake said. "Stubborn will not save you from the collective. Please take your people and submit. Do not throw away your lives on foolish pride." Veshkara's image flickered. "I must go. I have already stayed too long. May you find wisdom before it is too late." The transmission ended. Jake sat back in his chair and looked at his crew. "Thoughts?" "He's terrified," Greg said. "Not just of what might happen. He's terrified of the collective itself, like there's some kind of force of nature. A force of nature that evaluates species and decides if they get to live," Chris added. "That's not nature. That's tyranny." Rachel Kim, the science officer, had been quiet during the conversation. Now she spoke up. "Sir, I've been analyzing the original transmission. The message itself was normal electromagnetic radiation, but there was something else embedded in it. A secondary frequency that I can't quite identify. It's like it was designed to trigger a specific neurological response." "Can you block it?" Jake asked. "Maybe. But sir, I think the more important question is, why didn't it work properly on us?" That question hung in the air as the Horizon Dawn continued its patrol. More reports came in throughout the day. The Krilthar Empire, which controlled a quarter of the known galaxy, had issued a formal declaration of submission. The Voss Collective, a powerful telepathic species, had recalled all their ships and were preparing for evaluation. Even the warrior clans of Draka Prime, who had never retreated from a fight in their recorded history, were standing down. Only humanity was still asking questions. By the time Jake's shift ended, Mars Station had made contact with over 100 different species. Every single one begged humanity to comply. Some were angry that humans were even considering resistance. Others were sympathetic but firm. The collective could not be opposed. Jake was in his quarters trying to sleep when Lisa called him back to the bridge. "Sir, you need to see this." He was there in under a minute, still pulling on his uniform jacket. "What is it?" "Admiral Carter just sent out a priority broadcast to all of human space. It's going out on every channel." The main screen lit up with Carter's face. The Admiral looked tired, but... The Elder Collective arrived on the 8th day. They didn't sneak in or announce themselves with warnings. They simply appeared. 3 ships materialized in the space between Earth and Mars. Each vessel was the size of a small moon, dark and angular, covered in patterns that hurt to look at for too long. They hung in space like predators waiting for prey to make the first move. Jake Morrison was on Mars Station when they arrived, attending the emergency council meeting with Admiral Carter. Every screen in the room suddenly showed the same image, the 3 massive ships against the backdrop of stars. "My God," someone whispered. Admiral Carter stood up slowly. "All fleet units, battle stations, do not fire unless fired upon. Communications, try to establish contact." Around the table, representatives from Earth's government and the colonial worlds looked pale. Jake didn't blame them. The ships were terrifying to look at, designed in a way that made human brains uncomfortable. But he also noticed something else. He wasn't feeling that overwhelming fear from 8 days ago. He was nervous, yes, but not paralyzed. "Admiral," the communications officer called out, "we're receiving a transmission from the lead ship. Audio only. Put it through." The voice that filled the room was wrong. It didn't sound like it came from a speaker. It sounded like it was coming from inside everyone's head, bypassing their ears entirely. "This is the adjudicator of the Elder Collective. We have come to evaluate the species known as humanity. You will present yourselves for judgment. You have 1 solar cycle to comply." Carter stepped forward. "This is Admiral Ben Carter of the Human Defense Fleet. We've received your message. Before we respond, we have questions." Silence. Then, "Questions are irrelevant. Compliance is mandatory." "That may be how you deal with other species," Carter said, his voice steady. "But humanity doesn't work that way. We need to understand what evaluation means. What are you judging us on? What happens if we pass or fail? Who gave you the authority to judge anyone?" More silence. Jake could feel the weight of it pressing down on everyone in the room. When the adjudicator spoke again, there was something different in its tone. Confusion, maybe. "You question our authority? No species has questioned our authority in 3,000 years. "Well, we're questioning it now," Carter replied. "You want us to submit to judgment? Fine. But we need answers first. This is unprecedented. Get used to it. We're a species that asks questions. Now, are you going to answer them? Or are you going to attack us? Because if you attack, we will defend ourselves." Jake held his breath. This was the moment. Either the collective would back down, or humanity would find out just how powerful they really were. "You would dare resist us?" the adjudicator asked. "We would dare anything to protect our freedom," Carter said. "But we'd prefer to talk. So what's it going to be?" Another long silence. Then, "We will send a representative to Mars Station in 1 standard hour. Prepare a meeting space. This negotiation is granted out of curiosity, nothing more. Do not mistake our willingness to speak with weakness." The transmission ended. The room erupted in voices. Some people were celebrating the fact that the collective had agreed to talk. Others were terrified that Carter had provoked them. Jake just watched the Admiral, who stood still, staring at the image of the 3 ships. "Did we just avoid a war or start one?" someone asked. "Neither," Carter said. "We bought ourselves time to figure out what we're really dealing with." 1 hour later, Jake stood in the station's main conference room with a dozen other officers and officials. Carter had assigned him to the negotiation team along with Dr. Ryan Cooper, a xenopsychologist who had experience with first contact situations. "Stay calm," Ryan advised the group. "These beings are used to fear and submission. Our lack of both is going to throw them off balance." "Use that. What if they just kill us?" asked Commander Amy Peterson, Earth's chief diplomat. "Then they kill us," Ryan said simply. "But I don't think they will. They agreed to talk, which means they're curious. Or concerned. Maybe both." The doors opened without warning. A figure walked in, and everyone in the room felt their instincts scream danger. The adjudicator looked almost human, which somehow made it worse. 2 arms, 2 legs, a head with 2 eyes. But the proportions were wrong in ways that were hard to define. Too tall, too thin, with movements that were just slightly off. Its skin was gray and seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. When it spoke, its mouth didn't quite match the words. "I am the adjudicator. I speak for the Elder Collective." "You will explain your defiance," Amy stepped forward. She was shaking slightly, but her voice was clear. "We're not defying you. We're asking for information. In human culture, before we agree to anything, we need to understand the terms." "Terms?" The adjudicator tilted its head. "There are no terms. There is evaluation and judgment. All species submit to this. It has been so for longer than your species has existed. Why? Jake asked. The adjudicator turned to look at him. Its eyes were completely black, like looking into empty space. Why? Yes, why do you evaluate species? What gives you the right to judge if we live or die? Who appointed you as the galaxy's judges? We are the Elder Collective. We maintain order. We prevent chaos. We ensure that only worthy species continue to exist. That's not an answer, Ryan said. That's a justification. There's a difference. The adjudicator was silent for a moment. When it spoke, there was definitely confusion in its voice. You are not afraid. Why are you not afraid? We are afraid, Amy said honestly. But fear doesn't control us. We can be scared and still ask questions. We can be terrified and still stand our ground. Impossible. All species feel the fear. All species submit. All species except us, apparently, Jake said. The adjudicator moved closer to Jake, studying him like he was a strange insect. When we sent the awakening message, it carried our presence, our power. Species feel that power and understand their place in the cosmic order. They submit because they know, deep in their genetic memory, that we are superior. Yet you felt this and did not submit. Explain. Maybe we're broken, Jake said, remembering what Veshkara had said. Or maybe we evolved differently. Either way, we're not going to bow down just because you told us to. Then you will be eliminated. Will we? Ryan stepped forward. I'm a xenopsychologist. I study how different species think and behave. And I've been analyzing your message for the past 8 days. I know what you did. You broadcast a psychic fear signal, something that triggers a submission response in most species. But humans evolved on a world full of predators. Our fear response is different. When we're afraid, we don't freeze and submit. We fight or we think our way out. The adjudicator turned to face Ryan. You understand our method? I do, and I also understand what it means. You don't rule through military might. You rule through psychology. You make species too afraid to resist, so you never have to actually fight them. Silence filled the room. The adjudicator stared at Ryan for a long moment. Then it said, You are perceptive. Yes, we use fear to maintain order. It is efficient. It prevents needless destruction. Species submit. We evaluate them. We determine if they are fit to continue existing, and the galaxy remains stable. And what happens to species that aren't fit? Amy asked. They are removed. Killed, you mean? Eliminated from the cosmic equation. Their resources are redistributed. Their worlds are cleansed. It is necessary for galactic harmony. Jake felt sick. How many species have you eliminated? 47 by your counting system. 47 entire species. Billions, maybe trillions of lives. Numbers are irrelevant. They were unfit. They would have caused chaos if allowed to continue. Who decides what's fit? Carter asked, speaking up for the first time since the adjudicator arrived. You, based on what criteria? We decide. Our criteria are our own. We do not explain ourselves to lesser beings. Then we have a problem, Carter said flatly, because humanity won't submit to evaluation by an authority we don't recognize. Based on criteria you won't explain. That's not order, that's tyranny. The adjudicator's body became very still. You would refuse evaluation? We would demand a fair process, clear criteria, the right to defend ourselves if you find us wanting, and most importantly, we'd demand to know why you have the right to judge anyone in the first place. We have the right because we have the power. Might makes right, Jake said. That's your whole philosophy. You can judge us because you're stronger than us? Yes, then prove it, Carter said. You want to evaluate us? Fine, but we're going to evaluate you right back. You claim you're superior, that you maintain galactic order, that you prevent chaos. Prove it. Show us your authority is legitimate, because right now all we see is a protection racket on a galactic scale. The adjudicator was silent for nearly a full minute. Everyone in the room could feel the tension, the sense that they were balanced on a knife's edge. One wrong word could trigger a war that humanity might not survive. Finally, the adjudicator spoke. This is unprecedented. No species has ever demanded we prove ourselves. Maybe it's time someone did, Amy said. You are either very brave or very foolish. I cannot determine which. I must consult with the collective. We will reconvene in 24 standard hours. Do not mistake this delay for weakness. If we determine you are unfit, you will be eliminated regardless of your defiance. The 24 hours passed in a blur of activity. Admiral Carter mobilized every fleet unit humanity had. Scientists worked around the clock analyzing the collective ships. Diplomats contacted every alien species they could reach, trying to gather more information. Jake Morrison barely slept. He spent most of the time in the science lab with Rachel Kim and her team, trying to understand what they were really dealing with. "Look at this," Rachel said, showing him a display covered in wave patterns. "This is the psychic signal from the original message. It's incredibly sophisticated. It targets specific neurotransmitters in most alien brains, triggering a fear and submission response." "But human brains are different." "How different?" Jake asked. "We evolved on Earth, isolated from the rest of the galaxy. Our fear response developed to deal with physical threats like predators and rival tribes. When we're afraid, our bodies flood with adrenaline. We get ready to fight or run. We don't just freeze and submit." Dr. Ryan Cooper, who had been listening, added his thoughts. "It's more than that. Humans have a history of standing up to authority, even when it's dangerous. Our entire civilization is built on questioning power structures. Revolutions, protests, civil disobedience, it's in our cultural DNA. So the collective's fear signal hits us, but it doesn't make us obey," Jake said. "It just makes us scared and angry." "Exactly," Rachel confirmed. "And that's a problem for them. Their entire system is based on that submission response working. Without it, they're just another powerful species. Scary, yes, but not unstoppable." Greg Holland entered the lab, looking excited. "You all need to see this. We just got a message from a Krilthar science team. They've been monitoring the collective's ships." He pulled up a holographic display showing detailed scans of the 3 massive vessels. "Look at the power signatures. These ships are huge, but they're not running hot. Their weapon systems are cold. Their shields are at minimal power. It's like they're not expecting to fight." "Why would they?" Rachel said. "They haven't had to fight anyone in thousands of years. Everyone just surrenders." "But there's more," Greg continued. "We compared their technology to what we know from the archaeological records. These ships are old, really old. The collective hasn't upgraded their technology in at least 2,000 years. They've been coasting on reputation and fear." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. "So if we actually had to fight them, we might stand a chance," Greg finished. "Not a good chance. They're still enormous and probably have weapons we've never seen. But they're not invincible gods. They're just old and arrogant." Before anyone could respond, the station's alarms went off. Commander Amy Peterson's voice came over the intercom. "All negotiation team members report to Conference Room 1 immediately." "The collective is hailing us," Jake ran. By the time he reached the conference room, most of the team was already there. Admiral Carter stood at the head of the table, looking grim but determined. "They're sending 3 representatives this time," Carter said. "The adjudicator and 2 others. They want to discuss terms." "Terms," Amy said. "I thought they didn't negotiate." "Apparently we're special," Ryan said dryly. "We're the first species in millennia to tell them no." The doors opened. The adjudicator entered, followed by 2 more figures. One was similar to the adjudicator, tall and gray and wrong. The other was different, smaller, with features that seemed to shift and change as Jake tried to focus on them. "I am the adjudicator," the first being said. "This is the sovereign who commands our military forces. And this is the observer, who records the history of our interactions." The 3 beings sat down across from the human delegation. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then Carter broke the silence. "Thank you for returning. We appreciate your willingness to discuss this situation. Do not mistake pragmatism for weakness," the sovereign said. Its voice was harsher than the adjudicator's, more aggressive. "We agreed to speak only because your species presents an anomaly. An irritating anomaly, but one worth understanding before we eliminate you." "Eliminate us?" Amy said. "Is that still your plan?" "It is our right," the sovereign replied. "You have defied the natural order. You have questioned our authority. Under our law, that is grounds for immediate extermination. And yet you're here talking to us instead of attacking," Jake pointed out. The observer spoke for the first time. Its voice was neutral, emotionless. "Because the adjudicator requested this meeting. Because your resistance is unprecedented. Because we must understand how a species so young, so primitive, can face us without the proper fear response." Ryan leaned forward. "We've been studying your original message. We understand what you did. The psychic fear signal. It's impressive, really. Elegant, but it doesn't work on us the way you intended. And that terrifies you, doesn't it?" All 3 beings went very still. "You understand nothing," the Sovereign said. I understand everything, Ryan countered. Your entire civilization is built on that fear signal. For thousands of years, you've used it to maintain control without ever having to actually fight. You show up, broadcast your presence, and species submit out of terror. It's efficient. It's bloodless. And it's kept you in power for longer than most civilizations exist. And now you've met a species that isn't afraid enough to obey, Amy continued, which means your system is broken. You have to actually negotiate with us like equals, and you have no idea how to do that. The adjudicator raised one hand. Enough, you are correct. Your species does not respond to our presence as others do. This creates a complication in the natural order we maintain. Natural order, Carter said. Let's talk about that. You claim you maintain galactic order. You prevent chaos. But from what we've learned, you do this by making species too terrified to step out of line. That's not order. That's oppression. You do not understand the complexity of maintaining galactic civilization, the observer said. There are thousands of species, each with their own desires, their own ambitions. Without oversight, without control, they would war with each other constantly. We provide stability. By threatening to wipe out anyone who doesn't obey you, Jake said. Yes, it is effective. It's wrong, Amy said firmly. Ruling through fear and intimidation isn't maintaining order. It's tyranny, and humanity won't be part of it. The Sovereign stood up suddenly, its form seeming to grow larger. Then humanity will be removed from the galactic equation. We have been patient with your insolence, but this ends now. You will submit to evaluation, or we will demonstrate exactly why the galaxy fears us. Sit down, Carter said quietly. The Sovereign stared at him. You dare command me? I dare call your bluff, Carter replied, not moving, not backing down. You want us to think you're all-powerful, that resistance is futile. But we've been analyzing your ships. We know they're old. We know you haven't fought a real war in thousands of years. We know that your entire power structure is based on psychology, not military might. You know nothing. I know that if you were confident you could beat us in a fight, we'd already be dead. But you're not sure, are you? You're worried that if you attack humanity and we survive, or even just damage you badly, the rest of the galaxy will see that you're not invincible. And then your whole system collapses. The silence in the room was absolute. The Sovereign slowly sat back down. The adjudicator's expression didn't change, but something shifted in its posture. You are playing a dangerous game, Human Admiral, the observer said. No, Carter replied. You're the ones playing games. You've been playing them for thousands of years. Humanity is just the first species to call you on it. The adjudicator tilted its head. What do you propose? A new arrangement, Amy said, jumping in smoothly. You want to maintain galactic order? Fine, we can respect that. But it needs to be real order, not rule by fear. You need to establish clear laws, transparent processes, and give species the right to defend themselves in your evaluations. Impossible, the Sovereign said. That would undermine our authority. Your authority is already undermined, Ryan pointed out. We're proof of that. The question is whether you adapt or become irrelevant. We could simply destroy you, the Sovereign said. You could try, Carter agreed. But let me tell you what would happen then. Every shot you fire at us will broadcast to the entire galaxy. Every human colony you attack will document. And when you're done wiping us out, assuming you can, the rest of the galaxy will have watched us fight you. They'll have seen that you're not unstoppable. They'll have seen that resistance is possible. And then what? The observer asked. And then the young species, the ambitious ones, the ones tired of living in fear, they'll start asking questions too, Amy said. They'll start demanding answers. Your system of control through fear will crumble and you'll face resistance everywhere. Is that really worth it? Destroying one species to maintain a lie? The three members of the collective looked at each other. Jake couldn't read their expressions, but he could sense something passing between them. Doubt maybe, or fear of their own. Finally, the adjudicator spoke. You present interesting arguments, but they are based on assumptions. You assume we cannot simply destroy you and maintain our reputation. You assume other species will be inspired by your resistance rather than frightened by your destruction. You assume we care about galactic opinion. The 3 days felt like 3 years. Across human space, people waited with a mixture of hope and fear. Some believed humanity had found a way to change the galaxy for the better. Others thought they had signed their own death warrant. Jake Morrison spent most of that time with the military planning teams. If the collective decided to attack, humanity needed to be ready. But ready for what? They were facing ships the size of moons, technology thousands of years more advanced, and beings who had never lost a battle because they had never needed to fight one. Our advantage is tactical, Greg Holland explained to the assembled officers. The collective hasn't fought a war in millennia. They're complacent. They expect fear and submission, not resistance. We use that. Use it how? Asked Colonel Linda Hayes, commander of the Mars Defense Grid. Their ships are massive. One of them could probably destroy our entire fleet. Probably, Greg admitted. But size isn't everything. Big ships are slow. They're easy targets if you're fast and unpredictable. And we've analyzed their formation. They're positioned for intimidation, not combat. If we had to fight, we'd swarm them with small, fast ships. Hit and run. Make them chase us. And then what? Linda asked. Even if we damage them, they can still wipe us out. Then we make sure the whole galaxy is watching when they do it, Admiral Carter said, entering the room. Every battle, every attack, every human death gets broadcast to every species we can reach. The collective wants to maintain their reputation. We'll show the galaxy what that reputation really means. Jake understood the strategy. It wasn't about winning. It was about exposing the truth. The collective ruled through mystery and fear. Humanity would drag them into the light, show their tactics, reveal their weaknesses. Even if humanity died, they'd leave a legacy of knowledge that might inspire others. But Jake didn't want to die. None of them did. On the second day, something unexpected happened. A message arrived from the Krilthar Empire. Not an official government transmission, but a coded message from someone calling themselves Teshavar, an officer in Krilthar intelligence. Amy Peterson brought the decoded message to Carter's office, where Jake and Ryan were discussing diplomatic strategies. You need to read this, she said. The message was simple. Humanity, you have done what we could not. You have made the collective uncertain. We have been monitoring their communications. There is disagreement among them. The Sovereign faction wants to destroy you as an example. The Adjudicator faction wants to explore your proposed changes. They are divided. This has never happened before. Whatever you are doing, continue. Know that some of us are watching. Some of us are hoping. Signed, a friend in the shadows. This could be a trap, Ryan warned. Or it could be genuine, Amy countered. Think about it. We know the collective controls through fear. But what if there are species out there that have wanted to resist but were too afraid? What if our defiance is inspiring them? Even if it is genuine, it doesn't help us much, Jake said. The Krilthar aren't going to risk their entire empire to help us. Not yet, Carter said thoughtfully. But if we can prove the collective is vulnerable, if we can show other species that resistance is possible, we might not be alone anymore. On the third day, the collective returned. But something was different. Instead of 3 representatives, only 2 came to Mars Station. The Adjudicator and the Observer. The Sovereign was not with them. Where's your military commander? Carter asked as the meeting began. The Sovereign has been recalled, the Adjudicator said. Its tone was hard to read, but Jake thought he detected something like tension. There has been disagreement within the collective about how to proceed with humanity. What kind of disagreement? Amy asked. The Observer spoke. The Sovereign faction believes you represent a threat that must be eliminated immediately. They argue that allowing your defiance to stand will encourage other species to rebel. They want to make an example of you. And your faction? Ryan asked the Adjudicator. We believe humanity presents an opportunity, not a threat. The current system has maintained order for thousands of years, but it is not perfect. Species submit out of fear, not respect. They obey because they must, not because they choose to. This creates resentment that festers over time. Your species, immune to our fear signal, forces us to confront the limitations of our approach. So you want to change? Amy said carefully. But the Sovereign faction doesn't. Correct. Then you have a civil war brewing, Carter observed. Within your own ranks, you're divided about how to handle us. That's another first, isn't it? The Adjudicator's silence was answer enough. Jake spoke up. What happens now? Do you negotiate with us, or does the Sovereign faction attack us anyway? We are here to present you with an offer, the Observer said. But you must understand this offer comes from only part of the collective. Other factions may respond differently. We're listening, Carter said. The Adjudicator stood and began to pace, a gesture that seemed almost human. The Sovereign faction wants you destroyed. They will likely attempt to force this outcome regardless of our negotiations. But other factions, including mine, see potential in your proposal. A galactic order based on cooperation rather than fear. Clear laws, transparent processes, rights for evaluated species. These ideas have merit. But implementing them would require dismantling your current power structure, Ryan said. Yes. It would require the collective to transform from rulers into advisors, from judges into mediators. This is a profound change. Many within the collective resist it. So what's your offer? Amy asked. The adjudicator stopped pacing and faced the humans. We propose a trial period. Humanity becomes the first species to operate under a new system. You will have clear laws to follow, transparent evaluation criteria, and the right to defend yourselves in any assessment. If this experiment succeeds, we will gradually extend these rights to other species. And if it fails? Jake asked. Then the sovereign faction will have proven correct and humanity will be eliminated. That's not much of a trial, Linda Hayes said. We're basically agreeing to be your test case. If it doesn't work out perfectly, you kill us. Better than being killed immediately with no chance at all, the observer pointed out. Carter shook his head. We need more than that. We need assurances. Guarantees that even if the experiment doesn't work perfectly, we won't be exterminated. And we need other species to know what's happening. No secret deals. Everything transparent. The adjudicator considered this. Transparency would be acceptable. But guarantees are difficult. If humanity proves to be genuinely dangerous to galactic order, we cannot promise to protect you. Define dangerous, Ryan said. Give us the actual criteria. What would we have to do to be considered dangerous? The observer produced a device that projected holographic text. These are the standards. Unprovoked aggression against other species. Development of civilization-ending weapons. Attempts to forcibly dominate other sentient beings. Ecological destruction on a planetary scale. These are the behaviors that warrant elimination. Amy read through the list carefully. These are reasonable. We can agree to these standards. But we want the right to defend ourselves if we're accused of violating them. Evidence, testimony, the ability to argue our case. Agreed. And we want these same rights extended to at least 3 other species within 1 solar year, Carter added. This can't just be about humanity. It has to be the start of real galactic reform. The adjudicator and the observer looked at each other. Some kind of silent communication passed between them. Finally, the adjudicator nodded. We agree to your terms. But you must understand the sovereign faction will not accept this. They will likely move against you independently. Let them try, Carter said grimly. We'll be ready. There is one more thing, the observer said. If the sovereign attacks you, we cannot openly assist you. The collective cannot be seen as divided. It would undermine all authority. But we will not prevent you from defending yourselves, and we will ensure that other species observe what happens. You want us to fight your civil war for you, Jake said, suddenly understanding. You can't directly oppose the sovereign faction, but if we fight them and win, it proves your point. It shows that the old ways don't work anymore. That is a crude but accurate assessment, the adjudicator admitted. Ryan laughed, but there was no humor in it. So we're pawns in your internal politics. We fight and possibly die to prove a philosophical point. You fight for your survival and your freedom, the observer corrected. That we benefit from your struggle does not diminish its value to you. The room fell silent as the humans considered the offer. It wasn't perfect. It put them directly in the crosshairs of the sovereign faction, but it also gave them a chance. A real chance to change how the galaxy worked. We need time to discuss this among ourselves, Amy said finally. You have 1 standard hour, the adjudicator said. After that, the sovereign will likely move against us, and by extension against you. Time is running short. The 2 members of the collective left. Immediately, the human delegation began arguing. We should reject this, Linda Hayes said. They're using us. We'll be fighting their war. We're already fighting for our lives, Carter countered. At least this way. We have some members of the collective on our side, even if they can't help openly. The Sovereign's fleet arrived exactly when predicted. 5 ships this time, each as massive as the original 3. They emerged from faster-than-light travel in perfect formation, arranged like the fingers of a giant hand reaching out to crush humanity. Jake Morrison watched from the bridge of the Horizon Dawn as the enemy ships positioned themselves around Earth and Mars. The human fleet, 73 ships in total, looked like insects next to those massive vessels, but insects could sting, and humanity was about to prove it. All ships, battle stations. Admiral Carter's voice came through the communication system. Remember the plan. Fast, unpredictable, make them chase us. We're not trying to destroy them. We're trying to survive and show the galaxy that they can be fought. The Sovereign's voice boomed across all frequencies. It didn't speak in their minds this time. Instead, it used normal communications, broadcasting to the entire galaxy. Humanity, you have defied the natural order. You have rejected the authority of the Elder Collective. You have corrupted members of our organization with your dangerous ideas. For these crimes, you will be eliminated. You have one final chance to surrender. Submit now, and your deaths will be quick. Admiral Carter responded immediately, also broadcasting to the entire galaxy. This is Admiral Ben Carter of humanity. We reject your ultimatum. We will not submit to tyranny disguised as order. We will defend ourselves, our freedom, and our right to exist. And we want the galaxy to watch. Watch as the so-called Elder Collective attacks a species whose only crime was asking questions. Watch as they try to maintain their power through violence and intimidation. This is what their order really looks like. There was a moment of silence. Then the Sovereign spoke again, and this time there was anger in its voice. So be it. Your defiance ends now. The battle began. The Sovereign's ships opened fire with weapons that split space itself. Beams of twisted reality lashed out at the human fleet. 3 ships disappeared instantly, torn apart at the molecular level, but the rest scattered, executing the plans they had drilled for the past 3 days. Evasive pattern Delta, Jake ordered. The Horizon Dawn dove toward Mars, using the planet's gravity well to slingshot around and come up behind one of the massive ships. Fire all forward weapons. The ship's missiles and energy weapons struck the enemy vessel's hull. To Jake's surprise, they actually damaged it. Not much, but the shields flickered and a section of armor plating cracked. The old technology, advanced as it was, could be hurt. Target acquired, Greg Holland shouted. Firing again. Across the battlefield, the human fleet swarmed like angry bees. They didn't try to go toe-to-toe with the massive ships. Instead, they darted in, fired, and escaped before the slow, powerful weapons could track them. It was working, but barely. Every few minutes, another human ship would fail to evade in time and would be destroyed. Jake watched the tactical display with growing despair. They were doing damage, yes, but at this rate the human fleet would be completely destroyed long before they seriously hurt any of the Sovereign's ships. Sir, incoming transmission, Lisa Grant said. It's from the adjudicator. Put it through audio only. The adjudicator's voice filled the bridge, quiet enough that only Jake's crew could hear. Captain Morrison, the Sovereign is broadcasting this battle to the galaxy as promised. But they are also planning something else. In approximately 10 minutes, they will fire on Earth itself. They want to end this quickly by destroying your homeworld. Jake's blood ran cold. We need to warn everyone. You already know. What you do with that information is your choice. The adjudicator out. Jake immediately contacted Admiral Carter. Sir, we have intelligence that the Sovereign plans to attack Earth directly in about 10 minutes. We need to protect the planet. Carter was silent for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was heavy with the weight of command. If we pull back to defend Earth, we'll cluster our forces. They'll be able to hit multiple ships at once. It'll be a massacre. And if we don't, Earth dies, Jake said. I know. Carter took a breath. All ships, this is Carter. New priority. Protect Earth. Form a defensive perimeter around the planet. We're going to take heavy losses, but if Earth survives, humanity survives. Do your duty. The human fleet converged on Earth. The Sovereign's ships followed, clearly pleased that their prey was now concentrated in one area. Jake knew what was coming. It was a trap, and they had to walk into it anyway. The Horizon Dawn took position in the defensive line. Around them, dozens of other ships did the same. Jake looked at his crew. Lisa at communications, Greg at tactical, Chris at navigation, Rachel at the science station. All of them were pale but determined. It's been an honor serving with you, Jake said quietly. Not over yet, sir, Greg replied with a tight smile. The Sovereign's command ship moved forward, its weapons charging for a planet-killing blast. The energy buildup was visible, a growing sphere of twisted light at the front of the vessel. In less than a minute, that energy would be released, and Earth would burn. Then something unexpected happened. Space tore open between the Sovereign's ship and Earth. Not like the faster-than-light travel Jake was familiar with. This was different, violent, as if reality itself was being ripped apart. Through the tear came ships. Dozens of them. Hundreds of them. Krilthar vessels. Voss science ships. Even a few Draka warships, their hulls painted with battle honors. What the hell? Greg said, staring at the tactical display in disbelief. A transmission came through on all frequencies. It was the Krilthar officer, Teshavar. His voice was shaking with fear, but also with determination. Sovereign, this is Captain Teshavar of the Krilthar Intelligence Division. You do not speak for the Elder Collective. The Adjudicator has made that clear. And you certainly don't speak for the galaxy. We have watched humanity stand against you. We have watched them refuse to bow. And we will not let you exterminate them for having the courage we lacked. More voices joined in. A Voss commander, a Draka warrior clan leader, even a Zentari merchant captain. One by one, ships from dozens of species declared themselves in support of humanity. Not all of them, not even most of them. But enough. The Sovereign's voice crackled with rage. You dare? You dare to defy me? I will destroy you all. You can try, Teshvar replied. But the galaxy is watching, and they're seeing that you're not invincible. They're seeing that resistance is possible. How long before more species join us? How long before your entire system collapses? The Sovereign's ship began to rotate, trying to target both Earth and the newly arrived fleet. But it was too slow. The alien ships opened fire, adding their weapons to humanity's. The combined firepower was enormous. All human ships focus fire on the command vessel. Admiral Carter ordered, "Let's show them what cooperation looks like." The Horizon Dawn and the rest of the human fleet concentrated their attack on the Sovereign's ship. Human weapons, Krilthar missiles, Voss energy beams, Draka kinetic rounds all hitting the same target. The ancient vessel's shields began to fail. Armor plating cracked and fell away. Systems sparked and exploded. It's working, Greg shouted. The command ship is taking critical damage. But the Sovereign wasn't done. Even as its ship died around it, it activated the planet-killing weapon. The sphere of twisted energy launched toward Earth. Jake watched in horror as the attack streaked toward his homeworld. It would hit in less than 10 seconds. There was no way to stop it. No way to deflect it. Billions of people were about to die. Then the Adjudicator's ship appeared directly in the weapon's path. The massive vessel, one of the original 3 that had arrived at Earth, interposed itself between the attack and the planet. The energy struck the ship's shields. For a moment it held. Then the shields collapsed and the energy tore into the ship itself. The Adjudicator's voice came through one last time. This ends now. The old ways are dead. Let something new be born from our sacrifice. The ship exploded. The blast consumed the planet-killing attack and deflected the remaining energy away from Earth. The shockwave hit the Sovereign's damaged command ship and broke it apart. The 4 other Sovereign vessels, seeing their leader destroyed and facing a united fleet, began to retreat. Let them go, Admiral Carter ordered. We're not here to conquer. We're here to survive and prove a point. I think we've done that. Jake slumped in his chair, suddenly exhausted. Around him, his crew was cheering. On the tactical display, the alien ships that had come to help were broadcasting messages of support and solidarity. The battle was over. Humanity had survived. Over the next several days, the full impact of what had happened became clear. The Adjudicator's sacrifice had been broadcast to the entire galaxy. Billions of beings had watched as a member of the Elder Collective gave its life to protect a young species from tyranny. The symbolism was powerful, undeniable. The remaining members of the collective, shocked by the Adjudicator's death and the Sovereign's defeat, agreed to the reforms. A constitutional convention was called, with representatives from every known species invited to participate. The fear signal was disabled permanently. The collective would transition from rulers to advisors, helping to mediate disputes but no longer having the power to unilaterally destroy species. It would take time. Years, probably decades. Many within the collective resisted the changes. Many species were so conditioned to submission